Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today in this session. We will now introduce Cliff Williams, Principal Advisor at Total Maintenance Solutions. He will be sharing knowledge on steps to building reliability and the key lessons. Take it away, Cliff. I'll be sharing the presentation. Okay.
Arturo, we still don't have the presentation. Arturo.
Hi, Cliff. I'm sharing the presentation now. Let me see if I could reshare it again. Hold on. Let me know if you see it.
Sure.
I'll be on mute.
Okay. Still not seeing anything, Arturo.
I apologize. We're having some technical difficulties.
Yeah. It was
Let
working
me.
earlier.
It was working earlier. Let me just try something else. Hold on. Can you see it now?
Nope. Nope. I still see us too.
Mm,
Here it is. There it is. There it is. We've got it. We've got
okay,
it.
there we go. Perfect.
So I don't know if you want to go full to slideshow, full screen. I don't know if other people can see that. There should be a thing called slideshow. Yep. And then from the beginning. There we go. Perfect. Perfect. So we can very quickly skip on to the next slide. Yeah. Yeah, everything's good now. Okay, so we'll start. Sorry about that, but it was working fine before we came on the air. Um, but safety moment, as we always start. And again, this is very obviously very much a case of do what I say and not what I do. Um, where and the kind of point of this slide is that there are tools around your organization that you need to use, but if you don't use them, they're totally ineffective. And W. Edwards Deming, um, uh, yeah, one of his 14 points was that you should get rid of banners because people get confused around the banners and miss the messages, and so don't pay attention to what should be done. So um, this this is a prime example. I'm going to be going through fairly quickly, a little bit speeding up because we were a little bit behind. Okay, so next slide, please. Okay, so the very first step obviously is to understand where you are. And now you may have just joined an organization or you may be with an organization and they've decided they want to make a change. And then the challenge you face is that if you don't know where you are, then you can't tell whether the tools you have will take you forward. We talked about the tools that Skyjack. So understanding where you are is really the first step. Yeah, many times we see organizations that uh, simply expect that the person they put in charge has all of the skills and they can do everything. And that's really not often the case. And many times people are put into unenviable positions and don't know what they don't know. So once you get an understanding of where your organization is at, and when you've identified not only the weaknesses but the strengths as well, you can make some steps forward. You can start to map, what gaps are there in your skills and knowledge so that you can help close those gaps, and really build up the organization's capabilities. And even though the skills and knowledge that are required to develop a best-in-class maintenance and reliability group are broadly similar across organizations, and you'll hear many talks over this conference, and they will be, sort of aimed at everyone. And that's because for the most part, things are the same. But if you're going to be successful, you need to understand the nuances that are going to, make a difference to your group. There'll be little things that belong to your group. And that is quite often driven by the culture of the organization. And so, just taking training or attending something like this or gaining knowledge, whatever, um, it's only part of the solution. Learning and practicing them under your environment in your organization, really that's where you're going to get to success and really build on that. But the very first thing you need to do is um, we need to understand where are we at? What are our weaknesses? What are our strengths? What's important to our organization? And what is driving all of these? Next slide, please. Okay, so what is it that you're aiming for? Similarly to what we talked about now in the need for understanding the starting point, you need to understand the end point. If you don't know where you are or what you need to learn and develop, how do you know what direction to take? And then similarly, if you don't know where you're going, then any road will do. And that's a saying from Alice Through the Looking Glass is any road, if you don't know where you're going, any road will do. But what do you want to tackle first? Is this one where you have the skills and the knowledge? Are you just focusing on what you know how to do? And that may not move you forward. So you got to think about what you don't know how to do. How is it, that you've decided that this is the next step? And how is it going to influence the position of the whole organization? The example I like to use is that it's not really good if you're an orchestra and you play on cruise ships and you're awarded the best cruise orchestra of the year award, only to find out that next year you're booked on the Titanic. It's no good being the best maintenance group in the world if if it doesn't fit with what your organization needs and your organization is failing. But your numbers, they're hitting everything that you want to, but they're not applicable to where you need to be. So you have to be sure that what you're going to do will drive the results that the organization requires to be successful. And take a look sort of at the measurement hierarchy that's on the screen there, with strategic to the plant to the departments. The goals need to support your plant's goals, and the plant goals need to support the organization's strategic objectives. And the question is, if they're not, then why are you measuring? Why are you using them? As I say, many times we see maintenance groups where they really focus on only what they are doing and not how well it aligns with the organizational strategic objectives. Um, yeah, so when you've understood that, from where you are to where you want to be, you understand the journey, and you need to take you to get there. um, that'll be down to you then as leaders to lead that change. So you need to envision the future state. What will it really look like? Set your sights on it, and then communicate as properly, as often and as clearly as you can, because you are the ones that are going to drive it. So you can't do it alone. And again, as I said, key to this is communicate, 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 and then what you're communicating at the beginning is the need. Next slide, please. And that's what I just talked about, was communicating the need. There has to be a need for change, or it'll never be sustainable. Just wanting to get better for the sake of getting better doesn't last very long. And obviously, what you're trying to do is to improve, but there should be explainable reasons for it. You're going to need to help from other people, not just in your department, people in production, people in procurement, things like that. So you need to explain the why of what you're doing. And it may be something as simple as we need to reduce maintenance cost per unit by 5% so that we can increase bottom line performance in line with the stakeholder expectation. Or we need to reduce unplanned downtime by 10% as we're not able to fill our customer orders at the level we're at. You explain the whys and communicating the need, the whys of the need. And then the next step is really to explain what exactly will change. It may even start with explaining that you need to change what and how you measure. So very often we see that people are actually not measuring the things that they consider to be success. And so sometimes that's the first change that needs to be made, is what you are measuring, and sort of, or even it may be you're measuring the right thing, but you really can't tell if something goes wrong because there's no transparency. You have to have transparency, and that may then point to that we need to have things recorded better in our CMMS. Is it the way that we carry out our PMs? Do we have check marks on our PMs? That's not really a good PM. Um, we need to have something quantitative or qualitative, and have that and watch for trends. Because how do you trend a check mark? I don't know how you do that, but it wouldn't do. It's not very easy. But once we understand what will change, we need to explain the roles of everyone in that change, and what they will do, how much they will need to change, how they will be impacted by the change, if there's training required for the change and everything. But again, communicating the need to them. You can use something like a RACI chart, and that will help us get to that point where we will understand, okay, we know where we are, we know where we want to be, we know why we're trying to change this, and these are the roles and responsibilities that will play in it. So why is the change necessary? What will change? What will be the roles within the change? And what can be expected when the change is complete? That's always a really good point, is that you will kind of communicate that, okay, once we've done all of this, we've, you know, then the need is fulfilled. And you'll be able to sort of have measurable or qualitative, quantitative measures to show that it's been successful. Okay, next slide, please. So once we've got that, we've found out where we started from, we found out where we want to get to. Um, we've explained the need and the need for change, and explained the role of change. Then we need to then develop that roadmap. Okay, that little step by step by step. Um, and uh, really, the first point, it might seem sort of silly that you say identify the start and end, but you really do need to identify those things in your roadmap. Because say it might sound silly, but you do need to ensure that everyone understands the starting point and what the destination is. Or we may be working on a different assumptions, and that easily lead to confusion and frustration. Um, this means everyone who will impact the change, and those impacted by the change, it'll be across the organization, it'll be up and down levels, and you need to communicate this plan based on their perspective, not on this is what I want out of it, but this is what your involvement in it is. Some people, you may find out, will want to jump to step number 4. You know, they want to go to the last step, or even try and implement the destination, what it is that you. But to succeed, you need to have a logical and methodical map to get there. For instance, there's no point in setting up a report that's going to tell us what failure causes occur the most, or take the most time, or cost the most money, when the biggest failure cause is the dreaded other. You know, you've got other in your failure cause lists, and everybody uses other. So we're back to that idea of having transparency as to what really is behind it. And the first step is then ensuring that there's integrity in those things we're going to base our progress on. So when we're looking at the measures and we're looking at what we're going to use to drive, um, it has to have integrity, and that integrity also applies to the people. Be aware that kind of not everyone will want to travel at the same time and with the same effort, and you're far better off pushing the 60% who will normally sit on a fence, pushing those off so that they fall on the side of progress, and they become believers. um, Once we have had this sort of steps at a high level, then we need to understand the tools, the tasks, the roles that will make the conceptual steps into firm sort of places. And this may require, as I mentioned before, training. It may require reassignment or realignment. But whatever it is, we need to detail them and evaluate our success in implementing them and explaining them to people, and making sure that people understand why they are necessary, and not just simply assuming that because we said we were going to change something or something was going to happen, um, it it's going to happen. You have to give them the reasons, and it really is a way, when you're building the roadmap, where you can start to explain a little bit more and engage the people in this process. Next slide. I'm going to go through these quickly, as I say, because we're uh, we're going to run behind, just very quickly. Okay, so um, once you have the roadmap and the tasks and the tools in place, time to get some action. So now we've started. The only thing we're going to be able to guarantee is that there's change. It's the only constant. Many times people feel that if they have the roadmap, and as long as they look at the steps to managing the change, Unfortunately, that's not true. Just watching it is not managing it. Sure, if we stop doing one thing and we start doing another, we've changed. But have we changed successfully? Have we managed change, or did just change happen? And the most difficult part of change, the part that really needs careful management, is the transition of behaviors. You know, is it being done with enthusiasm? Are people buying into it? Are they understanding and embracing the transition? Do they feel good about it? Do they believe in what will be on the other side of change? Um, I mentioned understanding the culture earlier, and that's really what you're doing here. Is that with change, you're going to create a new culture, and so with the measurements and the change that you're doing, you want to be sure that you're creating the culture is what you want them to be. Um, Sometimes we have leaders in the C-suite, but they are the official leaders, and I think that for any uh, reliability program to be successful, you have to take advantage of the unofficial leaders. There are leaders on the shop floor. There are those that listen to. You need to get those engaged. You need to have them working and really being, pushing for it, because those leaders really have more influence than the C-suite leaders, and they will help you overcome the resistance and the reluctance. Um, and to do that, you need to look at things like delegation, but not dumping. It's delegating, and um, when you're thinking about change, I like to use 5 E's of change, and it's explain why, educate what, make sure it's easily understood, encourage participation, and make sure that everyone benefits. Next slide, please. I may have to sort of take my full 20 minutes. Um, okay, so monitoring and measuring. Um, as you make the steps forward, uh, then you really have to make sure that um, you have the measures and that you're progressing in the right direction. Don't wait till the end. Measure things as you're going along. And if these are types of things that um, you have chosen as what are important, these are the things that are going to drive your success in building the reliability process. um, then measure them as you go along, but be sure that you understand what they all are and that they are actually applicable to what you want. Things like MTBF, which is very, very popular. You have to be doing MTBF at the right level for it to be successful. MTBF is an average if it's used for a population. um, if you were to do MTBF at failure cause levels, it's a very useful tool. PM compliance, who's responsible for that? If you're expecting the planner and scheduler to own this, yeah, you're wrong, because PM compliance, when you look at why it isn't compliant, usually the reasons are outside of the department, where people will not allow equipment down and will not allow people to uh, or want people to deal with other things other than PMs and everything. OEE, availability times rate times quality. But do you understand why? Failure codes, I've mentioned that it's a really, really powerful tool if it's done properly. But if everything you look at is other, then we're not going to drive success. And then mean time to repair. Once you're sure that these jobs really actually do need doing and that you're not concentrating on getting back up quickly when you should be concentrating on not going down at all, then MTTR is a good thing to measure. But you want to be sure that you have the right measures that you want, and really what they're going to drive. Because as I mentioned, this is the culture. This is where the culture from. If it's get things back up and running quickly, is it the measure that you want? Then you have to be very careful that people are not taking shortcuts, because that will drive that kind of behavior. And again, with PM compliance, It's no good hitting 100% compliance and yet you're still having breakdowns because there is something wrong with that. So do the measuring and do the monitoring and keep looking at it. And it's dynamic. They're not once, do it once and then that's it. Forget about it. They have to be sort of dynamic. Okay, probably the last slide now. Let's try. Oh, sorry. No. Okay. So this is sorry. I Uh, and this is kind of building on what we mentioned earlier, where on the right-hand side we had the KPIs driving the action. Well, now we have on the left-hand side, hopefully the measures showing that things have been done successfully. And as I mentioned on the last slide, was sort of really be sure that you do have the right measures in place as you progress. And this is how you'd kind of monitor it, is making sure that what's happening in the department, in the maintenance department, is in fact impacting the plant, and the plant is impacting the strategic department. And during this phase, as well as the engaging phases, delegation is key. You can't do everything yourself. So delegating is good, but it doesn't mean dumping. It doesn't mean getting people to do stuff that you don't want to do. It means that you get people doing stuff that they can do or can do with a little training and should be able to do. And you don't need to be that person to do it. Along the way, there is key that you celebrate success. Last slide then. Okay, the 6 essential lessons. One, understand clearly where you are and where you want to be. Second is communicate the need for change often and openly. Have a plan, a detailed one. Involve everyone around you, and everyone that's involved in the process need to understand their role, and delegate whenever possible, because you don't have time to do it all yourself. And have relevant and real measures. And then the last one, which is really perhaps the most important one, is that you'll never get people to take ownership, and you'll never achieve sustainable change, and you'll never make the improvements that you want if all you ever do is tell people what you're going to get then is compliance, and you're going to get people just doing things for the sake of doing them because they've been told to do them and not because they understand why. So you, throughout those first 5 steps, you really have to educate the group to why, so that you have a chance um, of being successful. And that's it. I think it's just some adverts there. Yeah, that's how to contact me. But if we have a little bit of time for questions, not a lot because unfortunately I run over and we had but anyone have any questions? Any questions from anyone? Doesn't look like.
Cliff, great job.
Well,
Thank you
we
very
got
much for
there.
the presentation. A little early, technical difficulties, but we got through. And it was a great presentation. I learned a lot. Now, if anyone else has any questions, please put them into the chat box. If we don't have enough time, I encourage everyone to connect with you, Cliff, and maybe ask you questions that way. And we'll be good to go.
That would be great. Yep, I'd be more than happy. Yes,
Great,
indeed.
great. All right. Let's just give a couple more minutes, see if anyone else has any questions available.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we could have carried on a lot longer, and but I wanted to try and leave some some time for questions.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we could have got a little bit deeper into the culture that's required to do this, and making sure that the people are involved, um, that need to be involved, and really is all about that. But again, having that plan, not just ready, steady, gone. It has to be okay. We're going to go. Let's make sure we have that plan. We have that roadmap. We have the direction, and it's going to provide what we want it to provide.
Right. Excellent. Well, thank you, everyone. Please connect with Cliff. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thank you, Arturo. Thank you. Bye bye.